reporter asked what was the moment that was the worst moment. And the worst moment was when I realized that they were doing advertising, they were getting a lot of money in, they had understood that radio is a system to manufacture money, particularly in 2000 and so, and they were spending cash for parties in hotels in Conshohocken. And I said, oh shit, I can't be the only adult in town. John Gallagher was an interesting guy. John Gallagher is the person who really started the communication program. And John had seen how creativity worked in television. And when he came to this job and finally set up the communication program, he wanted to model what was best in the industry. And he knew that what was best in the industry was all of this crazy edgy stuff that he had seen happen at the beginning and the birth of television as a runner who just would, run messages back and forth. And he hired me to teach some studio classes. And as those studio classes went on, he realized that there was this club on campus, which was the radio club, which was called WRFM.
At the time, we were broadcasting out of the basement of College Hall in a 3-room kind of studio. One was the DJ room, the other one was just a lounge area, and the other one was a production/office. Everything was soundproofed in the office, so it was kind of a production room as well.
So in the basement of College Hall, there was the studio proper, and then there was like a lounge area. So while people were doing their shows, there was like a whole group of people crammed into the lounge area, like just doing shenanigans.
It had an odor. There was no ventilation.
So there was like a lot of spaces there where people would just literally start their day, drop some books off at the radio station, go to class, come back, and hang out until 10 o'clock at night. You'd sometimes go to work in between and come back and hang out. And it was just a place where like everybody was, that's what they did. It wasn't really a station, but it wasn't really just a club. It was a mixture of the two.
It was basically like press play kind of thing. It was, what kind of music do you like? Cool, you get to be the rap director. What kind of music do you like? All right, cool, you get to be the alternative director. So it was one of those things. It was a lot of personalities. People wanted to play what they wanted to play, and it was fun.
Their advisor was a person from the engineering end who had put together and sort of cobbled together some old amplifiers so that it would go out into the cafeteria.
There was a small cafeteria where at least people sat with a really, basically, again, not putting the place down, but old style radio speaker, not even modern intercom speaker, intercom, and that was the radio, and it didn't go out, no net at the time. Net was around, but not here and not to the extent. No broadband, anything like that. Nothing like they have now. And it was literally the cafeteria, and you'd have the one request sometimes I would get would be, could you turn it down? I'm studying for a final.
A lot of the people who were trying to eat their lunch probably hated us. We did a lot of really cool, edgy stuff at night that nobody was in the cafeteria. So, why were we doing it? Well, because it was a really cool experience.
I mean, you always had the people who didn't care, or, oh, this is just we don't want to listen to this because we're trying to do this or we're trying to study. But that was the only game in town. That's where we were. We had a nice view of the ping pong table at the time.
The T-shirt that I have in my hand is very simple. It's like they're all our prisoners. Because nobody could move or nobody could change the channel or nobody could change the dial. It's like that was kind of our motto back then. You have to listen to us. This is why we're here.
We took it seriously, even though it was only going to the cafeteria, because I think we all knew what it could be.
We were really trying to push the envelope to get us to where things are becoming now.
We tried to take it to that next level to where we were an integral part of the campus. We were, doing what this is. We tried to get it to where it was going to be on air. We looked into licensing to broadcast, not just online, but broadcast over the airwaves. We went to conferences to figure that out.
And the radio station had asked to be a radio station, even got approval from the school to be a radio station, but it was squelched by the school. They really didn't want that to happen. And I certainly understand why they didn't want that all to happen.
It was the grunge era at the time, and people were engaging in politics, and they were engaging in all this stuff that maybe they hadn't been in the late 80s. So it was all like, people were like very socially conscious, and they wanted to like talk about the music and why they were passionate about it. And it was really cool to see that shift. And of course with that, there's growing pains with that, because you give an 18-year-old a mic that has no idea what is appropriate, you're gonna get stuff that's not appropriate. But it was all because it was in the cafeteria. You know, I mean, there were days where we got shut down for the day. You know, something happened and we got shut down for the day. But it was all a growing and learning experience.
The club didn't want to be a part of the communication program. And it didn't want to be a part of the communication program because television and film was so big in the communication program that they felt that they were going to be swallowed up and they would disappear. And John, he didn't really fight that as much as accept it and talk about it. And he tried to get the school to start a radio show, which eventually they did, which is still on the air, Montco Radio on the air, or Montgomery County Community College on the air. And he wrote the treatment, he had me look at it, we did all this stuff and we got it going. And we went to the radio club, which was called WRFM, and asked for people to help out because they would take classes and stuff like that. And they did.
But the show had a student producer. It doesn't really have that now, but at the time, a student's job was to produce that radio show every time we did a recording session. So we did a recording session about once a month. We would bang out 4 episodes, and the student's job was to produce that show. And when that show aired and the credits rolled, their name was producer of this show. And it was, I mean, because it broadcast on actual radio, it was a legit credit that they could put on any of their reels.
The first 5 episodes, or the first 5 things with Rita, we were the ones that recorded them and did them. And that was tough back then. I mean, to get under a deadline for a Sunday show, I mean, we'd literally have to be here a long time to get it done. So, especially with reel-to-reel and tape and everything else.
And it was really one of those things where, you know, I still joke about it today, but when's the last time your homework was broadcast to the millions and millions that listen? The fact that it went out every Sunday on 1440 WMPV. Your homework went out on AM radio.
Back then, we would record everything on reel-to-reel. We would edit it analog. We would use razor blades. You know, we would have to make sure that the cut was right. If it wasn't right, we'd have to go back and do it again.
It's been a lot of fun. We started, it was reel-to-reel. You had to actually cut out your ums and ahs with tape and cut it with a razor, and you know, and actually splice it back together. It was a lot of work.
Then it was like, okay, I have to record it on this track and then mix it with this track and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, we have to match it up. It was just difficult, but it was fun because it was, all right, let's see if we can get this to happen. And we had deadlines.
It's always been a great project because I think it teaches you a lot about production. It teaches you about deadlines. It teaches you about the fact that, look, Sunday at 6:05, you have to have your homework done. That's that episode. And if it's not, it's dead air. So it's worse than even an F, you know, if you have dead air.
One of the persons to help out was the engineer, and his name was Jack Sillin, and he was the president of the club. It took a number of semesters, but Jack figured out very quickly that we would not subsume the radio club, and that if he got it written into their charter that they were a co-curricular club, they would learn to do radio rather than just play records.
It was a big step for us, but we went from a record playing club to a radio station. A true radio station.
And that was the year, the first time ever that WRFM won Club of the Year was in 1997. And it was a huge feat. It was like, oh my God, for the first time, you know, they were looking at this club, WRFM, as like more than just like the loud, noisy, rowdy bunch that like everybody just kept telling to be quiet. Like they were actually an engaged group of students at their college.
I had approached College Music Journal and we started doing top 100 charts and loud rock charts. So we were getting a lot more promos. So like we were getting like the new Radiohead or Coldplay, and it went on and on and on. And it opened the door for what we could play. I had a little box I brought in, and I put all these CDs in, whatever needed to be charted that week, and I would tell people, I go, okay, look, I just need you to play, on every show you do, you need to play 2 songs from the box. And that's all I need from you. It's the only request. Keep the door shut and play 2 songs from the box, and then the rest of the show is yours. And you had to push them along a little bit, you know, to get them away from that record club mentality, but it worked.
They try to get us to play, oh, here's a CMJ playlist. I heard Rob Templeton this morning say you had to, no man, I don't do that. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna pretend to like something that I don't like. You know what I mean? I like Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Cheap Trick, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, and that's what I like to play.
The president at the time, when Neil was on board, Derek Calhoun, had a lot to do with the whole atmosphere as far as taking it out of being a college club to really being a society.
People were into it, man, because like there was no social networking at the time, but like this was our social network of people. Like we didn't know each other. We knew each other from going to freaking Montco, and people being like, some people having a bad attitude about Montco. I mean, I heard that forever, and it was just like I wasn't gonna like go to Montco and be like, oh, I'm at Montco. I was like, yo, where I'm at is the place to be. That was the mentality of everybody. So we took that and just ran it around campus, you know what I mean? It might have been annoying to some people, whatever.
I remember he used to have real meetings. I remember the first meeting he had where we had like maybe 60, 70 people, you know, on the first day.
So there was just like a lot of good energy, and then like when fall 02 wrapped around with the club, man, once it was like club day or whatever that was called, where everybody would be like, oh, come do this club, come do this club. Oh my gosh, we had like 60 or 70 people, and I remember I was just like, went off.
We had like 70 people in this meeting room, and Derek steps up on the table and he starts telling everyone about how cool this is going to be.
I was like, this is how it's going to be, you know, da, da, da.
How many friends you're going to have, how much great music you're going to listen to, all the live shows you're going to go to.
Everybody was super psyched, and then we went down. I was like, okay, let's go shoot this commercial at the station. So we crammed all these people into the station, which didn't look anything like this. And everybody's just in there grooving. It was awesome, because that's what we were like really trying to build up. It was like, yo, some people think Montco's 13th grade. It's not. It's whatever you want it to be.
And that resonated. And for months, we were having parties every single week in the studio, every Friday, which is usually a dead period for colleges. We had kids come into the studio at lunchtime on Fridays to dance and party. It was really different, and Derek had a lot to do with that, as well as Neil.
So we didn't apply for an AM radio station, we didn't apply for an FM radio station. The school withdrew the concept of doing that, but they allowed us to have a internet radio station, which at the beginning only 12 people could sign into, which, you know, we never talked about that.
And the stream back then was very finicky. Like it would kick out all the time.
But I think they were limited to like only 14 people. Like if 14 people logged in, like the thing crashed or something like that. So as long as there wasn't 14 people listening, you were okay.
We had people from Tennessee listen to our show. We had people from Germany listen to our show. So we really had a worldwide presence.
And I've gotten to live through kind of every one of those changes, from when it was in College Hall, then it came to the ATC, and we've been in 3 different locations in the ATC. We were building this building, and we were kind of shut down. We originally wanted to put them down in the recording studio, and then we were told that no student club would ever have space here. It really slowed us down and kind of really messed up what we already had going on. We managed to move WRFM somewhat illegally out of College Hall in behind Tech Services, which is now, you know, a storage closet.
Right now I store the video gear in it, but at the time it was, you know, it was where it was, and it wasn't the best location. You had to walk through a classroom to get to the doors, and you know, you were worried about disrupting classes.
That was the biggest adjustment for me, because it was a very tiny room, and we didn't really have an office for Montco Radio.
The dean was okay with it. He was like, you know, just, you know, be careful and this and that, and eventually we convinced them to give us one of the editing bays, the fish bowls. We took over 103 because their usage was not incredibly popular. So we just said, well, give us one of the three. We'll be in there all day, every day.
And then when we moved to the fishbowl, as we called it, I liked that the best. It was still small, but we had those big glass sliding doors that were really nice. And
that really kind of helped everything. And the dean, went to bat for us and got us the room, and we moved all the equipment in there. And that station was, I think that really, really helped, and it really gave us a presence on campus. I was approached by some members of IT and said, if we could do something, what would you want to do? And I said, I want to turn that room into the radio station.
I think it was actually just an empty room of televisions. There was just like a centerpiece that had like 4 TVs on it, and I think it showed like student artwork and stuff, but it was really just kind of an empty room.
Might as well have had tumbleweeds blowing through it because nobody ever went in there. Most of the time the door was locked, so nothing ever happened in that room. And that's why I wanted it. I was like, you at least use the room. We could use the room, and it was perfect because there's windows on all the sides. You could see outside, you could see in the lobby, people could see you.
We were able to move in there and build a brand new radio station, brand new equipment.
While I was station manager, we opened up this station. I did the ribbon cutting for it, and that was when my second and bigger show took place.
It was the first time, Montco Radio was really kind of put on the map as something, something great and something showcased at this college. You walk into the Advanced Technology Center, and right there in the lobby is the door and a great big Montco Radio sign. So it's earned its keep here at the college.
It really gave Montco Radio a home, and by that point we had transitioned out of WRFM to Montco Radio. Did somebody tell you about that?
There's a city in the South, I want to say Kentucky or Mississippi, whose call letters were, and probably still are, WRFM. So technically, you're only allowed to have one station with those call letters.
We had the MySpace page, myspace.com/WRFM. Apparently they really wanted it.
Even though we're not ruled by the FCC, we were told that if we wanted to continue, we'd have to change our call letters.
So they got some, legal stuff together, and one morning IT and the dean and the president and whatever received a cease and desist email, pretty much like, hey, I'm gonna sue your college if you keep calling your radio station WRFM. Even though we had been WRFM way before they were, and even though we weren't actually WRFM, like call letters on the air, we were calling ourselves that. So we probably could have fought it, but it was like the building was burning down. I came in and everybody was in a panic, and they were like, call everybody, tell nobody to say that on the air, this, that, whatever, change the Facebook page. I don't think there was Facebook, but change the MySpace page, change the Twitter, all this kind of stuff. It all needs to be done within the hour, and all the students were running around like crazy.
So at that point, I think we took a vote with the members of the station that were there then, and probably some people from the administration.
In that hour, decided Montco Radio. We're going to go with Montco Radio. And so many of the students who have said that Montco Radio or WRFM or their time as a student here in Montco has been that springboard for their career.
This was the place to make mistakes. Like, this was the place to see what works and what doesn't, and screw up. If I screw up on my job right now, I'm fired. And I might get evicted from my apartment, you know what I mean? But if I screw up here, this is the place to screw up. This is an institution of learning and education. So to come here and hone your craft, and then to actually have people listen to it, that's the true gauge of, are you ready to go out and do this for real? This was the greatest training ground for radio, to come to a community. This isn't a community college. To me, this is like the same aesthetics as a 4-year college. It just happens to be community college.
Montco really set me up for just skills in media, editing, shooting, production, laying out, developing formats. All that came from my classes here, my time with Porter, being on the air, my time with Neil, with Jeff Ash, and a lot of the other people.
And for me to be able to kind of be at that juncture for people, I'm always feeling very grateful about that. Like that I have that chance to be at that crossroad for some people and maybe help them on the right direction. Sometimes not, sometimes they go in the wrong direction, but hey, it's all good.
I've had a lot of fun here. I've been able to meet so many cool people. I've been able to talk to so many people on the air, and I've made so many really good friends.
It was a short 12-month span, but I'll always remember a lot of cool things about this place.
I never thought I'd be here. I never thought in a million years I'd be on the radio getting 300 listeners to listen to my wrestling opinions, for God's sake. It's incredible.
This is basically where I grew up.
Hands down, the greatest 2 years of my life.
I had a wonderful time from the whole 4 years. It really flew by, and I'm always going to remember it.
This was like a little sanctuary for us rock and roll misfits.
My name's Sean Sealer.
My name is Matt Porter.
Jeff Ash.
Morgan Betts.
Daniel Helsel.
Elena Mager.
John French.
Rockstar Rob.
Derek Calhoun.
Brian Patterson. Lindsay Kamar.
A. Bradford Corbett.
Tim Johnston.
Jeff Auden.
Carrie Hughes.
Dave Tadashore.
Chelsea Epstein.
Kyle Hahn.
Michael Anderson. AJ Nervy. Danny Kugler.
And you're listening
To Montco.
Montco Radio.
Where music and minds
Music and minds
meet. Bang!